Happy Friday. It's time for the Richard Skipper Friday Wrap-Up Show. Who and what are you celebrating today? Richard Skipper believes every day is worth celebrating. But today, we wrap up the week with a dose of positivity. You never know who might show up or what might happen, so get ready. Your skipper is now coming on board, and we are ready to set sail. All aboard!
And here I am. Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating? I'm celebrating the fact that we've made it through yet another week. It is absolutely gorgeous here in New York, except that my allergies are driving me crazy. I am very excited because this Sunday, if any of you are in the area, I am going to be in Rhinebeck. They are doing Hello Dolly. And I'm considered quite an expert on this show. And so I've been asked to come there and do a talk back. It's been a long time since I've done anything like this, so I'm very excited about it. And then the following weekend, I will be in Pennsylvania doing it. And then the weekend after that, I'll be in New Jersey. Hello Dolly is blooming everywhere. Well, today we are going to be celebrating 6 of my favorite people in this business. These are all people who are making a difference. And I'm going to bring my first guest on for just a moment. But just in a couple of weeks, it will be Pride Month. And to start off Pride, what could be better than Robert Bannon at 54 below, singing and dancing to all of his favorite disco anthems. But there's a problem here.
Okay.
He was too young to be a part of the disco era. I grew up, I came to New York in 1979, and I just missed the end of the heyday of 54, Studio 54. But you're going to be right up there in If Those Walls Could Talk, Robert.
You know, I want to know what went on in those bathrooms, or I don't want to know what went on in those bathrooms. I am so excited. The idea for the show, and thank you, Richard. I'm so excited to be here with you. I always say that Richard Skipper is the best interviewer that's out here doing what he does.
You give me a run for my money, Mr. Bannon.
You are really the most thought-provoking, wonderful interview. The idea for the show came that 54 Below stands where the VIP room was for Studio 54. So it's Pride. It's time to celebrate and have a party because we have been through so much and there's so much hate and negativity in the world. And I know you succumb and subscribe to being joyful and celebrating people. So I thought, you know what? Let's do all the dance songs. Let's have a big old dance party. Let's just have a moment of togetherness. So I was born in 83, but I was there in spirit.
You're there in spirit. But I want to ask you, and I hope you don't mind my going there, but you are a school teacher.
I am.
And we are in this world right now.
Yes.
Can you imagine, for example, and forgive me, everyone, being a teacher in Florida right now, for example, because books are being banned. Students are not allowed to live their authentic selves. And you're very much open and out and allowed to be who you are in this. I can't even imagine, when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, that any of my teachers, I didn't know anything about their private lives, but you were very much in the spotlight. How are you able to balance all of that?
Thank you. That's a really good question because I wonder the answer to that sometimes as well. I don't know sometimes what's the appropriate line. I do know that I have written the curriculum for Pride for the county that I live in New Jersey, and I promise you, no one is indoctrinating your children or grooming them or telling them what to be. We don't even use the words gay, lesbian, transgender in the lesson plan. It's just about equality and that people's families look different and that we accept people for who they are. There's no indoctrination being done. And when I put out my music video for I Think He Knew and I came on your show to talk about it and I decided to live a public life, I knew that it may come up in my classroom and I was very worried about it. But something amazing happened. A lot of students came to me to ask me questions for their own support. They came to me about their families. They came to me to be a comforting place to discuss their journey and their confusion, not in a way that maybe the media makes it out to be, but just in a way of saying, I saw your song and I like it, or here's a rainbow I drew for you, or it's always been out of respect. So I hope that when you get to know somebody and you spend time with somebody, you can't hate them for their religion, for their gender, for their race, for their sexuality. And I hope that in some way, my little piece in these students' lives hopes that they can see the world in a more fair, fun, equal place than maybe that's portrayed to be.
Well, it's interesting. I have four incredible writers waiting in the wings to come on the show,
Yes.
and they all have books. And I, as an artist, the fear that if someone says, "I don't like you," I don't like what you do, that we could be canceled out because of something we say or do or something. My philosophy is just there's room for everybody at the table. And, I remember years and years ago, I performed at a country club, and it was a miserable experience for me. And I called Carol Channing, I'm gonna drop a name, the next day, and she said, "Well, don't you know, Richard?" She says, "People at country clubs are not there to see you; they're there to see each other." And I was thinking about this because she always said that for a show to be successful, and I'm sure everyone that's on the panel today will agree with me on this. In order for a show to be successful, you need people from all different walks of life, Republican, Democrat, gay, straight, different genders, different races. It
Mhm.
all needs to come together so that everybody can have that experience of being focused on what's going on the stage and let it sink in the way that it hits you at that moment.
That's a beautiful wow. Wow, that is a beautiful way to put it. Well, I know what I am blessed as a teacher. It's the same thing I'm blessed when I'm on stage on June 2nd. It's the same thing I'm blessed to be with you. It's the same thing that you are blessed to do your show like I do my show, is that it's not about me, and it's not about come and look at me and hear me sing and look at what I wear. It's about us. And I like to think of my show as a giant living room. It's shared space, it's community, it's church, it's spirituality. It is, and it's not about what my message is. It's just the fact that we get to gather, we get to laugh, we get to sing, and we get to see each other. And when I see you at a show, or I come to see your show, or you come to see my show, it's just nice to have community. So
Absolutely.
I and the community that watches your show and joins together, is we have each other's back. And that is the greatest gift of art. And I think that's what is the job of an artist. So I'm so honored to be able to share this space with you and art with everybody out here making it, whether it's a book or a cabaret show or a movie or a television show. I'm just grateful.
Well, I want to ask you, with all the songs that you're doing in the show, is there a particular song that it gets your endorphins going, and dopamine and all of that just swirling around you like cotton
Yes.
candy? Is there a particular song that just does that for you?
Yeah, well, the show is all diva songs, like you said. So it's Cher and it's Donna Summer and it's LaBelle and it's Madonna. It is a party. And I've been listening to it, and we put together this Pride mashup through the years. It starts with Diana Ross, and it goes to Stephanie Mills, and it goes to Mariah Carey, and it goes to Beyonce, and it goes to Lady Gaga, and it's just 7 songs of fun from 1970 till today. And every time I listen to the track of it, I think, how do I have the guts to do this? But
Well, if anybody can do it, you can do it.
it gives me
And
joy.
you are going to stick around for a little bit. I know
Yes,
that you've got to leave early because he's got a date with a very special woman tonight.
I'm
Uh,
sorry. My
No,
mom.
don't apologize. You're gonna be with your mom. So before we bring our next guest on, I've got 6 mystery cards laid out. So I want you to pull a number 1 through 6, and I've
Okay.
got a mystery question for you.
Oh no, this is when Richard's gonna make me cry. Now, question 2.
Okay, and it says, choose a new skill that you'd like to master and investigate your options for learning it. So, is there any new skill out there that you really want to learn that you've put off for whatever reasons?
All right, don't judge everybody watching at home. Richard, sometimes people are very good at certain things. They cook, they clean, they do laundry, they perform. I'm a workhorse. I love my classroom and I love to do what I do outside of the classroom. I lack the house stuff. So I bought for the first time a mop, and I bought see, I bought a mop, and I bought a whole bunch of cleaning supplies because I thought, like, it's time I grow up. I will be 40 on Halloween. So I was like, so I'm learning how to become, a domesticated. I'm really working on taking care of my personal life and home. I struggle with it. So I'm working on it.
Well, in case you don't know, the end that you clean with is the end that has the funny little stuff on the end of it, so
That's the problem.
so we're gonna bring on our next guest, and you're actually gonna help me bring this on. It's like, let's make a deal. I have 4 boxes, and you're gonna pull a number 1 through 4,
4.
and that is Danny!
Danny!
Oh,
You never know
hey.
who's gonna be brought up. Do you 2 know each other?
I
You
don't.
know, I don't think we know each other, but I'd love to know you, Robert. I love what you were saying, and I think it's great that you teach. I do some teaching artist work with kids in Jersey City, and we
Oh,
go into the classroom, and we work with a company called the Educational Arts Team, and it's that rewarding work that you do, and you give back, and I just find that to be wonderful. So good for you that you're a teacher. That's a very valiant job.
And
that goes
Danny is always giving he's a great entertainer himself. He's got a new album that's coming out.
That's not
Tell
me
us
on the cover, by the way.
no, no, well, that's me. But,
That's
I still refer to it as an album. So tell us a little bit about the album that's coming
Well,
out.
it's interesting. I got a phone call, I guess, back in September. And, my record label currently is Whaling City Sound Records. And they do a lot of great jazz albums. As you know, Richard, I'm not just a singer and entertainer, but also a saxophonist. And I get this call that Terry Gibbs, who's a 98-year-old, jazz legend, vibraphone, has worked with everybody from Benny Goodman to Billie Holiday to John Coltrane to, I mean, you name it. He was like one of the kings of 52nd Street back in the day when it was an actual scene. And he asked me to be the guy to sing his songbook. And they flew me out to LA, and we recorded in December. And it was just a trip. It was such an honor to work with someone like Terry. And he's sharp as anything, 98, and just knows all the stories. It's just a wonderful experience. And worked with great musicians. And we had Scott Hamilton on tenor saxophone, Harry Allen on tenor sax. He wanted 2 tenors, and I didn't play on this album. It was just vocals, but it was a real honor to do. We had lyrics by people like Steve Allen and Bobby Troop and Arthur Hamilton. So he's been writing all these songs for so many years and never really put them out in any kind of compilation. And the first guy to ever record, this is an honor. This is how I was said. First guy to ever record one of his songs was Nat King Cole. So that just shows you his staying power. And so that's exciting. That's coming out on June 16th.
And you've got some performances going on in the area as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
lots of
those?
things. I've been in the world of like, sometimes this happens. It's a good thing. I'm not complaining, but Richard, when you do like private events and a lot of corporate events, so that's been happening a lot lately, kind of keeping me from actually doing a lot of public performances. But yeah, I've got June 1st. I'm guesting with a singer, a newer singer on the scene, Susan Mack at
Oh, I
Birdland.
love Susan.
She's
Yeah.
great, and I'm filling in there on that show with her, and I'll be playing and singing. And then June 16th, we're doing a big show, a concert at Hudson River Park, and that's going to be at 7 o'clock, and this is through the Tin Pan Alley Society. So I'll be leading the band. We have people like Brandy Disterheft on voice and bass, and AC Lincoln is going to be singing and tap dancing, and I'll be singing and playing, and John Allred on trombone. So a lot of great folks. Who's playing drums? We got Paul Wells on drums. Um, God, lot of good folks. So it'll be a fun night.
And the same question that I asked Robert, with all that you sing, is there a particular song that really gets your endorphins going? That when you are performing that song, that you really find yourself in a certain groove?
Oh, my wheelhouse really is the swing style of jazz, and it's fun. And I think as you know, Richard, like yourself, you're such an upbeat, positive guy, right? And my message generally tends to be positive and upbeat. When I do a show, I want people to think they've been to a party, and we've all been at the party.
Mhm.
And I think any tune that gives that feeling of like, if I get the audience involved, if they're doing some backup vocals with me and I teach them, they sing back to me, or it's just like an upbeat fun. I'm seeing the smiles on people's faces when I'm performing it, and they're having fun. Then it just makes it that much more fun for me.
It's
So,
great. And, I see a swing disco vibe happening some night.
Robert, you just say the word and I'll be there.
I
I
was
got
saying,
my
why don't I know Danny? I teach in North Bergen. It's next to Jersey City.
my wife and I live in Cliffside Park. We're neighbors.
I'm in Richfield, New Jersey right now. I could
Oh,
walk to your
perfect.
house.
All right, look, we'll have to get together.
We're
Right?
gonna, I'm gonna, well, see, I really am like Dolly Levi,
You,
bringing people
That's
together.
right. You're like the Shiksa Yenta of
That's me. That's me.
Richard.
That was my nickname in high school.
Okay.
Yes. So
I don't want
I'm
to.
going to let you, Danny, pick a number 1 through 5, and then we're
Okay.
going to bring on our next
I was
guest.
dying to tell you Richard. I wanted to tell you my Carol Channing story
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
because I don't think I ever told you this. So I met Carol Channing back when I was in college. I walk out of the 9th Street Pass Station, and there's Carol Channing trying to hail a cab. And I go, Miss Channing, oh, I'm such a fan, And she looks at me and she goes, really? I can't do it as good as you. And I said, can I help you hail a cab? Every time the cab driver would stop, they say, where to? She said, Waldorf Astoria. And they'd say, oh, that's too far. And they'd drive along. So finally, I helped her get on a bus. And she looks at me and says, the last time I rode a bus, it was a nickel. And then that was it. I got her on the bus, and there she was. She was off, but it was such an exciting encounter for me, and I've always wanted to tell you that story. So,
Well, I don't want to burst your bubble, but that was me.
I knew we knew each other.
So anyway, I love that story, and there's so many stories. She was doing a Pride event in Central Park, and someone thought that she was me. And they went up to her and they said, how do you do this? She said, how do I do what? They said, get into this drag on a day like today. She said, do you think I'm Richard Skipper? And she told me the story. So pull a number 1 through 5.
Let's say number 3.
And your question is, well, it's a statement. My actions are intentional and they bring me closer to my goals. I'm going to ask you a question because all of us in this business, and there are a lot of artists who are watching, do you feel that your career is happening intentionally as you've planned it out? Or do you feel that it's a result of the people and the circumstances that have happened along the way?
That's a very interesting question. I think that we always like as artists to say, "Oh, I've had this in mind all along, and this is exactly the path I wanted to go." But to be honest, I think Kismet plays such a part in everything we do, and there's so many happenstances along the way that are wonderful that you never imagined you'd be doing. When I started out, I was an actor. My goal was to be a comedy partner with my brother, be in a comedy team, and act. And like to think that I'd be making my living basically doing performance as a musician. Like the music for me was always like my side gig. It was instead of stocking shelves or like taking a retail job, I'd play at a coffee house or a restaurant. And learn. That's how I learned the tunes, by just like
Mhm.
getting paid to practice, right? And so over the years, when I think back, I don't think I ever could imagine that I'd be where I was 10 years ago at this point today, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I think if we as artists accept that more and appreciate the journey, we're all in a better place. That's just my philosophy anyhow. So,
I absolutely totally agree with you. So we're going to bring on our next guest. You are going to bring on our next guest.
okay,
Door number 1, door number 2, door number 3.
let's do door number 2. Monica.
Well, I am excited to have them on the show. They'll know who I'm going to pull up their book here because I met them years ago because of this book. I am Sophie Tucker. And I'll share with you at another time my Sophie Tucker, Carol Channing story. But Sue and Lloyd Ecker have devoted their lives to keeping the music, the legacy, the life of Sophie Tucker very much in the forefront instead of the background. They not only wrote this incredible book, I've told the story and I'll share it here. Sue and Lloyd met when they were 2 years old at a Bette Midler concert. And of course, Bette Midler used to do the Sophie Tucker jokes. And so Sue and Lloyd started researching who the woman was behind the jokes. So they wrote this incredible book. There's a great documentary, which Carol Channing, by the way, is in, celebrating the life and legacy of Sophie Tucker. And it doesn't stop there. They are on the fast track with a Broadway musical about the life and legacy of Sophie Tucker. All of the songs, except for a few, are all the standards of Sophie's life and career, but Sue and Lloyd have also written a few songs for the musical as well. So welcome to the show. I'm thrilled that you're both here.
Hi there.
Great to be here.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you again.
Now, Sue, you both of you live not far from me, and we never see each other.
We're right up here in Pomona.
Right.
That's right. So, when we last saw each other, it was quite some time before COVID hit and everything. And then COVID hit. Did COVID deter the work that you were doing, or did it really give you the ability to really hone in and focus on what you wanted to do? Which of those really fell into place for the two of you?
It's interesting because we were able to work because we worked together. So we were here working, and we were Zooming a lot because we were in the process of writing the script. So instead of schlepping into the city, now we were turning on Zoom and speaking to the director and the dramaturg and having meetings that way. It also afforded us an opportunity when we had our first workshop in the end of July 2021. We were able to do that because not a lot of people were able to workshop at that point. So the things were available once they started to open up. It was still a pain because you had the COVID officer and you were masked and there were a lot of restrictions, but I think we were able to slip under the door, so to speak, because there was not a lot happening at that time because of COVID. So there, you have to look at the positive. And so I would say that was, one of the positives is that we were able to do something that we might not have been able to do had it been, everything been open and available.
Now, I did mention earlier, and I'm not joking, you did meet at a Bette Midler concert. Am I right about that?
1973.
Yeah.
1973. And
Before Bette Midler was Bette Midler.
Yeah.
Well, but you both started doing the research. What is it about? I'm a huge Sophie Tucker fan to begin with, but what is it about Sophie Tucker that resonates so deeply with the two of you that you really have devoted your lives to this? That's number one. And number two, what do you think the biggest misconception is about who Sophie Tucker was?
Right. Well, I'll answer the first one. They think she was a bawdy, four-letter word comedian because of Bette Midler. Bette Midler did a character called Soph, and Bette Midler would tell you herself that it's not Sophie Tucker. It's Bruce Valanche's version of Sophie Tucker. And she wanted to be a little foul mouth, and that was her thing, and loved it. But Sophie Tucker never said a four-letter word on stage. It's our belief, though, she was dirtier because she did innuendo first.
Double entendre, yes.
She was the first person on vaudeville stage, on A stages, with Mr. Keith and Mr. Albee to do raunchy material, but without saying a four-letter word. And she got arrested a couple of times for it, even though she never uttered a four-letter word. She was vilified, but she broke through, and that's what she became. I mean, and the best example of this is that they loved her. They loved her for it, and they adored her. And then she had a little protege named Mae West, and she also came on the scene. But for some strange reason, when Mae West did it, she got arrested, and when Sophie Tucker did it, they laughed. Mm-hmm. And so that was pretty cool too. But we saw a lot of stuff. Susan, you'll tell them.
Well, the reason I was going to say, you asked the question about why we love her so much, because when we started to research the scrapbooks that we found that she left 400 scrapbooks to the New York Public Library. And when we started to research it, we found a side to Sophie, at least I did, that I fell in love with. Sophie was such a multifaceted entertainer and person. Lloyd was drawn to the fact that she was an amazing businesswoman and comedian. I was drawn to the fact that she was such a humanitarian. I mean, there are letters in her scrapbook. She would write to her fans, Facebook before Facebook, "I'm coming to Columbus, Ohio in October, come see me." And her fans would write back, but they would write back letters. "Dear Soph, this is what's going on in my life." She kept every single one of those letters. So we got to see America through the eyes of Americans from 1906 to 1966. And the thing that I love the most were the letters that said, "Dear Sophie, thank you for sending those coats to my mother. She was able to make enough clothes for my family for the winter. Thank you for sending money for the coal. Thank you for, and charities that she gave." She was such a warm-hearted person. That's what I fell in love with. I fell in love with her, this woman who was the first woman to say, "I don't want to get paid. I want a piece of the gate," and then create the gate, create her audience. So here is a woman who's doing a lot of firsts. And this is back in 1906, 1910. And what a role model. What a role model for young women today. Here's a woman who went on stage and said, "I'm fat. I don't care if I'm fat. There's more of me to love."
Right. She was Lizzo before Lizzo,
Right.
without the flute.
Without the flute, but she can play the flute too. I want to bring on our next guest in a moment, but before we do, I'm going to let you pick a number. You can decide between you two, 1 through 4, and then you're both going to respond to this question.
Okay, I just want to bring up one thing before we go. We're having a workshop on Broadway on June 22nd. And if anybody out there is interested to see what's going on with our play, they can get a sneak peek if they write to us at sueandlloyd@sophietucker.com.
And I just want to say that all of that information I will also have on the YouTube channel.
Great. Because we would love to have everybody come and join us.
Okay, we're going to pick a number.
What's the number?
4.
4.
And it is, as I take on new challenges, I feel calm, confident, and powerful. As you go through all that you've done, do you feel more intense as you go on? Or do those 3 words, calm, confident, powerful, resonate with the two of you?
You go first.
Well, that's why I was attracted to Sophie Tucker, because she was calm, confident, and what was the third thing? Powerful. She, I predicted with Susan in 2006, when I opened up the first scrapbook in the New York Public Library and I started reading about her, I said, I got it. We're going to do a documentary. Then we're going to write a book.
Which you did.
Then we're going to turn it into a Broadway play.
Which is happening.
After that, we'll make it a Hollywood movie. After that, we'll have an 8-year series on Netflix. And after that, when we get to older Sophie, we'll hire Bette Midler to play older Sophie, and we'll meet her again and have dinner.
And there you have it. So I'm going to let you bring on our next guest, number 1 or number 2.
2.
And we've covered a lot of ground here, but I am going to bring on David Friedman, and as I bring on David, because you've written this incredible book. This is the older version, because you have written a new version just for, that has gotten us through COVID and everything. So you're all about the thought exchange.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use those 3 words that we just mentioned. And I want you to say the first thing that pops into your head. Calm.
Oh, no, not calm at all. Calm, almost never.
Confident.
What's the next word?
Confident.
Well, the word confident means con, which is with, and fidele, which is faith. So with faith is what confident is. So yes.
And powerful.
Well, yes, but it's our mind that's powerful. And we think that, and it's our creative mind that has all the power. And, if you look at the Bible, and the Bible says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. I view the Bible as a handbook for creativity, not as a history book. And it says you create it and it appears, and you don't have any idea how. And that's what we call God, that we don't know how, but not I worship you. So we are creating by our thoughts. And just as if you want to see what you're wearing, look in the mirror. If you want to see what you're thinking, look at your life.
Wow. Well, I want to ask you, how did the thought exchange begin for you?
The thought exchange began because my husband, Sean Moninger, is a unity minister. So I got involved in the New Thought movement. And I was asked to take over an artist support circle because I was a successful artist and composer and all those things. And I noticed that a new thought, sort of like everybody knows that if you take on a positive thought, positive things happen. And I thought, we all know this. How come we never do it? How come we take on a positive thought and 2 seconds later we can't stay with it? And I thought, we're not stupid. We're not lazy. We really care about this. And yet this keeps happening. I thought there must be something. So I started a group of workshops. And what we discovered, if you have a traumatic association with a positive thought, like for instance, if you were a kid and you said, I can do this, and someone slapped you across the face, then you quickly learn that that positive thought got you slapped across the face, and you learn to take on what I don't call negative, I call it a protective thought, a thought that prevents you from getting slapped across the face, which is, I can't do this. So as adults, we take on a thought of, like, you want to do a Broadway musical. I mean, we all know that thought. I'm doing a Broadway musical, and then all the luck comes in. And so what we realize is that when we take on the thoughts we want to take on, they come with great discomfort. They come with sensations that are uncomfortable. And if we want to do what we want to do, we have to learn to be with them. One of my favorite stories about that, I was winning a MAC award, a Lifetime Achievement, and Lucy Arnaz was presenting it to me. And we're backstage pacing the floor nervously because she has to go out and expound on my virtues. And then I have to go out and win an award and sing, and we're all nervous. And she stops and she says, okay, what are my sensations? Because she studies thought exchange with me. Mm-hmm. My throat is tight, my stomach is churning, my hands are shaking. And just as she said that, the announcer said, ladies and gentlemen, won't you welcome the one, the only, the fabulous Miss Lucy Arnaz. And she looked at me, and she put her hand to her throat and put her hand to her stomach and showed me the shaking hands and said, well, hell, I can go out there with that, and, and walked out with it. And so if we want to be successful, it's uncomfortable. When someone says, I want to be a star, I say, do you want to be a star? Are you willing to be a star? Are you willing to be that uncomfortable? And we have this illusion that, oh, I'm going to feel fabulous. Like people say, oh, imagine what you're going to feel like out on that stage, opening night on Broadway. I've done that many, many times. I know what I feel like I'm going to throw up, and so to not go, what's wrong with me, but to go, yes, of course, I am having uncomfortable sensations. So I teach people to look at what's in their life, notice that's what they're thinking. If it's something they don't want, they're protecting themselves with some thought. Exchange the thought for the thought you want to take on, and then be with the sensations. So, and my publisher, it's 20 years since the book came out, and he asked me to write a new section on how I got through COVID using thought exchange, and a new preface and new ideas that have come up and new ways to do the work and all that stuff. So it's an expanded edition. And I teach this all over the world. I teach a weekly workshop every Wednesday from 5 to 7. I have a little group that gets together online, and I teach this at churches and colleges and all
David,
over.
I want to get on that group. So give me the information so that I'd love to join you on that.
It's 5 to 7 on Wednesday evenings, and you email davidfriedmancomposer@gmail.com.
Great.
So, this is amazing.
Robert, you've got to go. Say hello to that gorgeous mother of yours.
Thank you, David. It's so nice to meet you, Sue and Lloyd, Danny.
And I will be sending you information for everybody.
Please.
So, David, I'm going to let you pull a number 1 through 3, and then we'll bring on our next guest.
3.
And your mystery question is, it says, well, commit to solving a problem that's been bugging you for a while and give yourself a timeline.
Now, what was the first part? What was the first one?
Commit to solving a problem that's been bugging you for a while. Is there a certain problem that's been bugging you for a while?
Oh, God, absolutely. About 10 years ago, I had a concussion, and it really affected my voice. And I have been working in many ways in my thought on sing, stuff like that. And I haven't really sung, and I'm committing to doing concerts this year. And the timeline, I am committed by November. I will do 3 major concerts.
And I'm going to be there. And you're going to come back on the show and we're going to talk about it.
Terrific.
Well, I'm going to bring on our next guest. No number to pick. It's Tom Stratford. Thank you for waiting patiently.
Oh, hi.
There you are. Thank you. You've got that book. First of all, I was reading about you just a couple of days ago. He lives here in Rockland County. You lived in Spark Hill, where I live. As I'm reading this book, and you're going to tell us, give us a Reader's Digest version in just a moment, because I got a lot of questions I want to ask you.
Oh,
but
boy.
As I was reading this book, it was almost as if I was reading my own story. And I'm sure that and the book hasn't even come out yet. I got an advance copy thanks to you. The book is coming out is it Monday that it's coming out?
The 29th.
And we talk about thought exchange, thanks to David. And I truly believe in manifestation. And early on in your book, you go right there. And you made up your mind. You committed yourself at 17 that you were going to be very much like John Travolta
Correct.
from Welcome Back, Kotter. And David talked about just a moment ago, and I'm going to go here. David mentioned, that sensation of having a goal or something that you're going to go after, and then someone slapping you. It wasn't a slap, but when you went in and announced to your mom that you were going to leave school and you were going to be the next John Travolta, her response to you was,
You can't do that. You're not dropping out of high school because you know John Travolta. That's what I got.
but the next day, now listen to this mother. She takes him to see the school psychologist to really, talk to you about this.
Yeah, I was bound, determined to drop out of high school, go out to Los Angeles, and do exactly what John Travolta was doing. And I wasn't going to not do that. So she became worried enough that she actually knew the principal, and she called him and said, well, maybe he needs to talk to the psychologist. And of course, that whole thing started out with ink blots. And I was like, okay, here we go. Hold on. This is going to be interesting.
But you went into the room thinking that you had this under control, that you were going to convince the psychologist that he was on the wrong path.
Correct. Yeah. Because I knew what I was doing, and I just figured I have to go through this. I had no choice but to go through this. And once I, put my case on the table, they would surely understand, and they'd be like, oh, well, of course, this is exactly what you should do. You should leave high school and just go out to Los Angeles, knowing nothing or anyone. But that's what I was going to do. That was the plan.
I'm pulling this photograph off the wall because this woman right here, Florence Theodora Epps, was my mentor in Conway, South Carolina. And she was behind me. She convinced me that I had the makings of being an actor and pursuing my dreams. And she was the one where everyone else around me was saying, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. Said to my parents, let him try it. Then if he can't make it, then come back and talk about it.
Right.
And everyone thought she was crazy. You had your own Florence Theodora Epps in your life, and that is the crux of the book. Tell us about Zita.
So Zita was on Broadway at the same time with Helen Hayes, Edward G. Robertson, Clark Gable. They were all starting out trying to find their way. Her first love was theater. And the talkies had just started coming into Hollywood, and she was on tour with one of her plays. And I think it was Lamel saw her first and said, I've got to have her. That's the voice. That's what we need. Thalberg saw her. They started fighting over. They were giving her contracts, letting her choose whatever script she wanted, but there was nothing that she liked. She didn't like any of the scripts. She thought that they lacked character, they lacked development, they just lacked substance. So she stayed out in Los Angeles for 6 months, for then it was the late 20s for a contract of over $28,000, and she didn't take any of the jobs, and she came back to New York. She said, "Thank you, that was very nice, but I don't like any of the stuff you're handing me." She went right back to Broadway.
And tell us a little bit about your meeting. And I don't want to give away anything in the book, but she took you under her wing.
Well, she did. I found her. I was doing theater myself, and I needed to get an acting coach. I was just, again, 17. I had just started to figure out how I need to do this. And I didn't drop out of high school, so I joined a theater group. And through that, I found someone that suggested I take an acting coach. So I looked through the journal news, through the classified ads, and she was offering classes, and that's how I found her. And she did, direct me. She did, take me under her wing. I learned an awful lot at a young age from her.
What do you think is the greatest life lesson that she taught you in terms of the way you approach your art and the way you pursue your career?
Well, timing. Everything is timing. Everything happens for a reason, when it happens, when it's supposed to happen. You've got to believe in the spirits of the gods and the timing. And there was just so much about what we don't know that you needed to be open to in order to understand how to move forward in life, in theater, in general. And that wound up being a fantastic thing for me, because everything is timing. This book, I started taking notes on this book in 1994. And I just started to work with someone getting it published in 2017. And it's a story that dates back to 1982. So basically, timing is everything, because here we are.
I was going to say that, you've had a very successful career as an actor. So thank God you followed your dreams and your pursuits. But you're also an incredible writer. This is your first book.
Thank you.
And you can't put it down. As I'm reading it, the recall is so vivid that it's like a movie is playing in my head. And I'm wondering, did you keep journals prior to this?
Well, something happens along the way. And I was living in Manhattan, and something happens. I can't say too much about it, but something happened which prompted me to grab a black and white speckled notebook, open it up, and just start to write down everything from the moment that I met her. Everything was written down. I just took notes about everything because I had to. There was a search that I needed to go on, and it started with just writing everything down. And then over the years, I just added, I remembered more and went back even further, put a little more in. It's just, it started early.
Well, one of the reasons that I wanted all of you today, one of the things that I do to wrap up my Fridays, to wrap everything up, and my mom's watching, so Mom, thanks for being here. But everyone, I'd like to wrap everything up on a positive note, but I'm all about the creative process, and I'd like to talk to all of you. I pulled some questions based on my own reading and writing this week, and these questions are based on things that came up. I'm going to start with you, Danny, and the first question is, how did you feed your soul this week when it comes to your artistry?
I saw a documentary last night. A friend of mine made a film, and I mentioned that I did some teaching artist work. And it was something I really wanted to see because it celebrated our executive director, who after 43 years of work retired. And of course, we have this feeling, we miss him because he was such a brilliant arts educator and came up with so many wonderful methods. And seeing that focused on celebrating this great mind and individual was really rewarding, and reminded me why I do that kind of work in addition to the work I do as an artist and a performance artist on stage, and what I do really for a living. So I think that was really a chance to kind of feed my soul a bit, and that and laughing. Laughing's very important.
That's important, especially nowadays, if you can find the time to do that.
Yeah.
Sue, where do you find your wisdom when it comes to your art?
Wow. Well, I think I have to trust that when I write, which is how I'm expressing myself most lately, I start with just writing free for all. I just let it go from the pen to the page, and it pours out of me, and I don't censor myself. When I don't censor myself, I find that what comes onto the page is my truth. I can edit it, I can make it better, but when I don't censor myself, that's the truth, and that's where my creativity starts.
Do you second guess after you've done that?
Well, of course, after I write the first draft, I always second guess. I think that's what makes any creative person a creative person, because they always think it stinks, and it's supposed to stink. It's a first draft, but so I might second guess it, but I actually collaborate with my partner here, and then we discuss, and then we see what works and what doesn't work, ways to make it better. But the truth is the truth. So I don't second guess the truth. I just might second guess the way I say it.
So Lloyd, I have a question for you. I mean, being in a relationship, you write and collaborate with your wife. Are there moments where you're able, I mean, are the juices constantly going, or are you ever able to just shut it down and say, I'm getting away from this today? Or is it even necessary for you to even want to do that?
I have a great opportunity because I switch my juices to another thing. We are writing a play. We have 2 active businesses that are unrelated to writing. And once in a while, my daughter tells us that she's pregnant.
Ah, is that new?
That's very new.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So I get to be a grandparent too sometimes, but
That's wonderful.
I don't give myself much time to turn off, though. I never. I think my witness will tell you that there's no. You know what David Letterman used to say? There's no off position on the genius button.
That's
Never,
true.
ever ask me that question about him. I'll tell you.
So David, when I see you, and I've been fortunate enough to know you for a while, and I've also been fortunate enough to be in your workshops, with your singing workshops and everything. Is there any?
Answer your question.
Is
the outdoor education?
Ziggy, stop! I don't know why that went off. But is there ever a time, David, in today's world, with everything that you've accomplished, starting a new project, do you still have those fears? And if so, and I think I know the answer to this, how do you get past those fears to just start working?
You can't control how you're going to feel or what comes up. So, for instance, I have written hundreds and hundreds of songs. I've done shows. I've done all sorts of stuff. I don't know how to write a song. I know how to open to a song so that it has the best chance of writing me. It was like Sue was saying, it pours through me. So whenever I have to write a new song or a new project, my first thought is always, I can't do it. But one of the things we learn, and one of the things we've worked on, is who we are is not our thoughts and is not our sensations. We are an invisible consciousness observing those. So I can look and say, oh, I noticed the thought that I can't write this. And then I've learned to go, that's because I can't. I don't write it. Something else does. So there's a certain letting go. One of my favorite comments, someone says, I finally decided to give up control. And I go, oh, you had it? So I always have those thoughts, and I always think I can't do it, and I'm always afraid, and I always doubt. Those are just in me, and when I don't try to get rid of them, I just do things. So that's
Absolutely. Tom, in your book, and I mentioned this earlier, you mentioned that being 17-year-old kid and just announcing and laying down the law, basically, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I've written a show about my own experience. When I was 13 years old, I was reading The Magic of Believing, which tells you the kind of kid I was. And and in the book, it says, set your mind on a goal like a homing pigeon and go after it with dogged determination. And my mom is watching, so she knows I'm telling the truth. On August 5th, 1974, I closed the book and I went in and said to my parents, 5 years from today, I'm going to New York. And I did. I didn't know how I was going to get here. I didn't know anyone here, but I just went through. It was like that was my magnificent obsession. I was just obsessed with that.
Mhm.
I want to ask you, that 17-year-old self, where you said, this is exactly what I'm going to do with my world. Does that 17-year-old still have as strong a voice within you, or is it something that you find that as you've gotten older that you've suppressed a little bit?
No, it's probably gotten louder. It once the gears started rolling, there was nothing else to do but to make it happen. And it changes over the course of years. The more work you get, the more established you become. It seems that it's a little easier. You book something, you get cast, they change the cast. You just never know what's going to happen. So you just keep going full steam ahead. I just have no other choice but to do just that. And it's exciting. It just keeps me going. It gets me up every morning. It's onto the next project, onto the next film. It's invigorating.
That's great. That's wonderful. Danny, what is holding you back, if anything?
Sue mentioned the idea of like the second guessing thing. And, I always try to be very confident. I think that, kind of leads me because I'm usually very confident. And it's that old saying, even if someone asks you, can you do it? And you can't do it, you say yes, because, you'll learn. I mean, that's a showbiz mantra that we all go with. But I think that, when I get home and after a performance or just after a rehearsal or something, there's that little voice in the head that kind of makes you second guess yourself. And I think that's probably the only thing that holds most of us back. And that might be, that just trying to suppress that so it doesn't get in my way of my normal confidence. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
Absolutely. Same question, Sue and Lloyd. Is there anything that you feel that's holding you back?
Yeah, right now, $18 million.
I knew he was going to say that.
So, David, thought
funny.
exchange. How do we change that thought exchange for Sue and Lloyd?
Well, so what I would say,
Yes.
what I'm hearing in you guys, and I'm saying this to be helpful, is I'm hearing that you have the thought that that kind of money is difficult to get, is challenging, maybe it's not there. So we do something. Can you look into something which is the great unmanifested of infinite possibilities? In other words, everything that's possible. So it's possible someone could knock on your door right now and say $1 million, right? So if you focus, not I'm going to get millions of dollars, but millions of dollars are here.
Absolutely,
Right
I could do
here, right now. And whenever you see something else, rather than, oh, it's not true, we go, oh, I must be thinking that because that's what I'm seeing. And we catch ourselves thinking that it's difficult, that it's impossible, and I think that's what holds us all back is based on past experience. We have we erroneously think there's limitation. We literally think, well, I mean, that when I had this one woman, she came to Thought Exchange. She said, I'll never meet a man. There are no men. I can't get a date. I can't have a man. It'll never happen. And I said, is it possible you could meet a man? Can you just hold that there must be that possibility? She disappears for a year. She comes back. She says, I'm never going to get a job. I've been trying to get a job. There are no jobs. I was just telling my husband the other day that there are no.
You didn't let me finish the answer to my question. It's holding us back, but my father taught me 1,000,000 years ago that I'm one no away from a yes.
That's right.
Oh, all right. I like that.
For me, it's getting rid of that sensor. There is the sensor on one side of my shoulder, and there is the muse on the other. And it's just a question of just getting that sensor off my shoulder.
Or to have it. It's like the song Good Morning Heartache. Good morning, heartache, you old gloomy sight. And then the last line is Good morning, heartache, sit down.
Right.
Hello, sensor.
Yeah.
Hi, hello, sensor. Sit down.
We were also hoping one of you would introduce us to Jeffrey Seller.
There's a great line from a Mae West movie where her maid comes in and she says, I'm going to go out and get myself a husband. And Mae West says, honey, leave the husbands alone and get yourself a single man. I love. So, Tom, I'm going to let you pull your mystery question number 1 or number 2, and then we're going to wrap this up in just a moment.
Is that me? Did you say
Yes.
Tom? Okay.
Yes.
Number 1.
And it says, get something off your chest today on this show in a loving way.
Okay. Wow. That could just go back to what David was just saying. What everybody was just saying is like, get the things off of your back, off your shoulder, the negative things, because the more positive you think about something, you might not see it happen, but things happen. If you stay positive with it, if you kind of look at it, you have to dissect it. That's something that I've had to get off my chest, and I didn't know that it was happening until this happened. And once this happened, I was like, wow, all right. So it took this long, but I never doubted for a moment that I wouldn't be able to do it. So it's just getting that off of my chest.
Well, I'm thrilled that you all said yes to me. If there's one thing I've learned in this, it all boils down to 1 or 2 things, either yes or no. And you all said yes today, and I hope you had a great time. And I hope that you'll all come back. Everybody who's watching, I just want to let you know the links to shows. Robert, I know that you had to leave early. The books, everything will be on my YouTube channel. Please, please, please support these artists and support each other. I'm going to give my final word, and then I'm going to give each of you a chance to give your final word. It could be about something that we spoke about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't say that you wish we had, or just any final message you want to leave everyone with. After I finish, Danny, I will pick you. And then after you, you'll pick whomever you want to pick. And the last person left standing, don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the final credits will roll. I want to thank everyone for being here. I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. And I'm going to ask everybody on the show today to do this, and I hope that everybody watching will do the same thing. Pick up the phone and call someone that you have not spoken to in a while. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message. Sue and Lloyd, getting your call last week, Lloyd, meant a lot to me. It was nice to hear from you after a while. And here you are on the show. So you never know when you pick up that phone and you make that phone call, what's going to happen. And like I said, not an email message. Do it not on social media. Do it on the phone. Or better yet, make a date to meet this person and have lunch with that person. Let them know how they've made a difference in your life. There's a wonderful man that I've had the good pleasure of knowing for many years, and his name is Sean Moniger. And Sean Moniger, and David, I say this at the end of every show, so I'm not just saying this because you are here today, but Sean once said, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And then someone sent me a meme, and it said, we are all in different size boats. Some are in canoes, some are in yachts, some are pushing tugboats upstream. It doesn't matter what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. Yeah. And with that, I'm going to leave the screen, and David, it's all yours. And anytime any of you have anything to promote, please call me, and you're on this show. Thank you, Danny. It's all yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Richard. And I wish the best to everyone here. And so great to meet some of you and see some of you again, because I know some of these faces. And just the best of luck on everything. And I got to say, of all the podcasts I've done, this one's the most recent. And do I pass it on, or so?
Yes.
David, go ahead, David.
Okay, I just thought of a quote. Alan Menken, who I worked with a lot. I conducted Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Hunchback, all those things. He's probably one of the most prolific, successful, 8 Oscars, every award imaginable. He once said to me, every morning I get up, I pick up my big sack of shit, I throw it over my shoulder, and I proceed. So I just think whatever's going on, proceed. So thank you, everybody. It's been a joy to be with everybody. Bye. Tom.
Thank you. Listen, it was so nice to meet everybody. I wish Sue and Lloyd all the best. My message out there is keep the faith. Keep the faith, smile, get through it. There's another day. I wish everybody all the best. Peace. Sue and Lloyd.
And here's our advice from Sophie Tucker. If you want a long life, all you got to do is one thing. Keep breathing. Bye.
Bye.